Hey there, thank you for joining me, Stanley, on this Saturday. Some of you who saw my Friday video noted that me calling the video just for fun was not entirely honest. In the video, I started talking about running, but then very quickly that led to discussing Ahmaud Arbery, the African American man who was running as a white former police officer, and his son misidentified him, got into a car, armed themselves, followed him, and then shot and killed him. And I'm not going to discuss the entire situation here. Most people already have their idea of what really happened. There are videos online about it. I'm not going to try to parse through all of that. What I am going to try to talk about is something that I think a lot of us are forgetting in discussions about Ahmaud Arbery, discussions about race. Every time this stuff comes up, discussions all over social media, discussions about the coronavirus and different people's responses. And the thing that I want to talk about is the dehumanization of everyone in the world today. We don't treat each other like human beings anymore. And this comes out in a whole host of ways. We act like people are objects to be used and discarded when they're not of use to us. We act like people are machines expected to always be perfect. We act like people are just the result of whatever things happened to them. And we treat people less than what you would expect someone to treat your animal, let alone another human being. The arguments that people have are so far removed from the way you should talk to a human being. The way we allow ourselves to treat other people. It's so far removed from how you should treat another human being. And we defend it by saying, well, they did this. Well, the person acted in this way. Well, they knew what they had coming to them. Or we'll say that, it was a mistake. And there are times where people make mistakes. As humans, we make mistakes. So we should expect people to make mistakes. But that doesn't mean that we excuse what a person does. We have systems set up where when people make mistakes, they tend to make mistakes toward the same types of people. And the mistakes that they make toward some types of people are a whole lot worse than the mistakes that they make toward other types of people. Because for some reason in our world today, we cannot treat each other like human beings. There's always been this tendency in the world. This isn't a new phenomenon. This isn't a uniquely American phenomenon. There's always been issues with treating other people less than human. But it just seems to be getting worse. I'm not seeing how we're treating other people any better than we have been before. The outrage, the hate, the way that we just talk about them when they're not around. We will talk about other people when they're not around in ways that I never would have imagined before. Just today, I was going through the post office. There was someone on the phone talking to someone, and so that everyone in the post office could hear it, said, "Yeah, well, you're stupid," into the phone to this other person. I have no idea who the person was with the phone, so I have absolutely no clue who was on the other end of the phone. But we act like these exchanges are about like disembodied others instead of about an actual person. We will sit around and talk about Ahmaud Arbery as if, well, here's this other thing that happened, here's this other circumstance, instead of like, this is another person in a long string of people, of human beings that are being treated as less than human. And not just African Americans that are being treated as less than human, as a whole host of people who are being treated as less than human because of the color of their skin, because of their gender, because of the way that they talk, the language that they use, because of their political affiliation. And I don't see anywhere in the Bible, which I believe to be God's word, where it's ever defensible to treat someone as less than a human being. That's the story of what started happening when sin entered the world. And for people to think that it's okay to treat someone as less than human for any reason, I can't fathom as excusable. Jesus gave us a golden rule, and it's very helpful. Jesus said, "Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you," which is very helpful, especially when you realize it's more of a positive statement. Like, you should be positively doing what you would hope other people would do to you. But in Jesus' example, and in the way Jesus talked, in the way that Jesus lived, in the way his followers lived, what it means to live up to that goes so much farther than we imagine. Jesus said, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." We think, doing unto others as we'd have them do unto you. It's like, okay, well, here's something I wouldn't really want someone to do to me, so I'm going to try to stop doing that. Well, imagine if there's someone who you purposefully attack time after time, and that person said, "Hey, can I pray for you?" If there's someone who you've purposefully gone out of your way to knock down, to insult and ridicule, and you found yourself in need of help, and that person came up to you and said, "Hey, I'm going to help you out." That's what we're supposed to be doing for other people. Not, this person disagrees with me politically, so I'm going to insult them as much as I can. When Jesus was getting murdered, he asked that God would forgive them and excused it. Said, "God, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing." Imagine if someone is hurling insults at you, ridiculing you, beating you down. Could you, in the moment, forgive them for it? And that's not just Jesus. Jesus did that. But then Stephen, one of the followers of Jesus after Pentecost, he said the same thing as he's being stoned to death, as he's being pelted by stones. He asks God to forgive them. And it's going to be very easy to hear the stuff that I'm saying, and to quickly point out the way that everyone else doesn't follow this. But Jesus warned us to not try to take a speck out of someone else's eye when a log's in your own. I'm not saying these words so I can start looking around at other people and wondering how they're dehumanizing someone. I'm I'm not saying these words so that you can start looking out at everyone else, wondering how they're dehumanizing other people. I'm saying them because I need to make sure I don't do that. When I'm getting angry and upset, that I don't come up with all of the ways to not excuse what they're doing. But I treat them as human beings, as valued people made in God's image. And I hope that if you're watching this, this would not lead you to then say, oh yeah, well, okay, cool, like look at all of these people who are doing that. But if you're watching this, that you would say, wow, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have said that thing. Maybe I shouldn't post the things I do on social media. There are a lot of people who do that because social media creates a distance where we can do some awful things and say some awful things and not recognize that we're talking to people. Maybe it's the way that you want to see other people harmed because they don't look like you, because they don't speak the language you do, because they're not of the same gender that you are. I don't see anywhere in the Bible where there's any evidence of treating any human being less than human. In fact, the Bible goes almost in the opposite direction, in that we should be doing everything we can to treat people better than ourselves. I don't think that the conversation is going to stop with Ahmaud Arbery. I don't think the conversation stops until we make sure that each one of us, as individuals, is willing to treat other people and to argue for systems to treat every human as a human person. And until all of the systems treat us as human persons, and each individual looks at each other as a human person and not as a thing to be used, not as an object around us, but as fully equal to us, the conversation isn't going to stop here. This is not an easy week as far as my videos go. But I think this is something that needs to be addressed. And I think until this thing stops, things aren't going to change anytime soon. I hope we can all take some time to reflect on how we are at fault for dehumanizing others. And I pray that we can start looking at every human being through Jesus' eyes. God bless you all. Take care.